Can we get a zoom in here?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, ready? Oh, whoa.
Yeah, see how it does it, and then pull it down all the way. It doesn't feel uncomfortable, like your finger's not tired. See, you don't have to,
so
but see,
it's not...
no, don't even hit left trigger. You don't have to. Left trigger can be a completely different button now. You don't have to aim. Left trigger doesn't necessarily have to be your aim down sight anymore. Well, I mean, it does in some games.
Well, what's interesting is it's not what I thought it would be.
So the other one is hold triangle and go straight 3 o'clock.
The chat got triggered because of the PS5.
3 o'clock. Oh. All right, and this is the grenade. So pull. So there you go. So see how
I wish
you
you
gotta
guys
do it
could see
halfway?
this. Sorry, everybody.
So do it halfway and hold the arc.
I'm out.
Feel the first resistance. So that's your aim.
Whoa!
Yeah. Now pull down the second resistance. You'll single fire and then pull one more time, and you'll do an alternate fire.
Oh, that's actually crazy.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
The Xbox Series X controller compared to this controller out of the box, I like this one better.
Even with the thumb, because the thing that throws me is the thumb pad being even.
So what I was telling people is I would give the and I'm not saying the Xbox controller is a bad controller. I would give the Xbox controller a 9.0. I would give this like a 9.5. Nice. I don't. So I
can go grab an Xbox.
Yeah. I prefer. So this is the side by side, right? Like,
yeah.
Joysticks.
Yeah.
I personally prefer the offset joysticks. But I know that that's a preference thing, so I didn't want to hold that against it in its review. Because my brother-in-law, for example, prefers the side-by-side.
So
he just feels comfortable with it. So I know that's just a preference.
What puts it over the top for you is the technology with the triggers.
And it's I mean it has its motion controls that are actually in one of the games that the PlayStation comes with, Astro's Playroom. They actually do use the motion controls fairly decently.
Yeah,
and it's pretty fun.
But that's pretty gimmicky. The Switch does that. Almost no games utilize it.
There is the microphone, which I can only think of. So basically, they demo all the features for you right at the beginning of the Astro's Playroom, and then you actually go into this action platformer and play it. And by the way, Astro's Playroom is actually a pretty decent action platformer just by itself. But so one of the features is there's a mic right here, right, that you can talk on or whatever if you don't have a real headset, because as everybody knows, the new consoles don't come with headsets. Now, that's all good, great, and fine, but what Astro's Playroom used it for was they're like, blow on the mic, and you can blow on it, and it recognizes that you blow on it. And I thought to myself, well, the only time that feature would ever come in handy is that one game, one night stand.
Oh, yeah.
It's like if it was and blow on her ear. So if games incorporate that, I could see that as a fun gameplay. I like the motion controls I could live without, although I will admit was pretty impressive. The touchpad just acts as like a modifier button, so that's fine. The part that puts it over the edge is, I don't know if I think they're called the adaptive triggers. They're phenomenal. For a single player experience, it is one of the best things you can put into a controller. So, for example, if I'm playing Ratchet and Clank, and I know it does this with the Call of Duty games, if I go to pull on this trigger when holding a gun, the trigger has a little bit of resistance, so it feels like your finger's on that trigger.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then when you pull the trigger, it releases, so you feel it come down. It's cool. Actually, it's out. You're probably thinking, Jordan, that's so stupid. Who needs that? I thought the same thing.
For immersion?
Yeah,
that's
really,
super cool.
really fantastic. In Ratchet and Clank, a game that I've been playing a lot this weekend, you know how in some games you'll hold the left trigger to throw to show the arc of the grenade, and then you'll hit right trigger to throw the grenade?
Yeah.
So what this does is, because of the resistance, is you pull it halfway down to show the arc of the grenade, and it doesn't feel awkward because you can feel yourself hit that resistance, so it feels like it stopped, and then you pull it the rest of the way to throw the grenade.
Is this something that's built in hardware-wise, or
it's up to the developer to incorporate
so that's how they can control it.
Incorporate it into the game. Now, every weapon in Ratchet and Clank has a primary and an alternate fire, and it's all done by the one trigger because of because of that adaptiveness that you can feel. It is really cool. The whole vibration setup that they have in there. In Astro's Playroom, just another example, your little robot character, you hit the square button to punch, and he punches with his left hand, and then he punches with his right hand. As you're punching, I'll use this controller as an example. When I punch with my left hand, so I hit the button and the robot punches with his left hand, a small vibration goes from the bottom all the way up. Not like an overpowering vibration, but a small little vibration. And then same, it'll do it on the right side.
It's the Nintendo Switch Ice Cubes.
Yeah, it really is. So, and they did show a bunch of robots were in my controller, and you could shake it around and stuff like that, right? But But no, those triggers alone for a single-player immersive experience, I can see.
Because a multiplayer, that's a disadvantage, I think.
Well, I guess it depends on your preference. It may be a disadvantage. That was my thought. I could see if you're in a really competitive setting, I can see you wanting to turn it off. Which, to PlayStation's credit, you can go right into the settings and turn all the vibration off completely. Okay. You can turn every feature in this controller on or off.
This is just the base controller. Can you do like hairline triggers or anything like that?
Well, no, because the game kind of does it for you.
Yeah, so
if
I wonder,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I mean, my favorite controller in the world is still the Elite controller because of the back paddles. Yeah. But since it's third party, I just wanted to compare out of the box to out of the box. You know what I mean?
That's what everybody says. That's what that Microsoft has.
When it really blew my mind was when I was in Astro's Playroom and my character picked up a bow and arrow and it said pull the trigger to draw the bow. And what I could do is, as I pulled the trigger, you can feel the draw of the bow. And then once you pull it far enough, it'll release, and then you can feel the release of the bow. That was when it blew me away, because it was like, whoa.
There's a good question from chat. Victor, how long do the batteries last?
I haven't been able to give it a good try because it came out of the box low on battery, and I had it plugged in while I was playing. This weekend, I'm going to try battery life on it. Right now, it's at a full charge, I
would
believe.
imagine it's similar. The Elite controller is pretty impressive. Granted, you got to realize, we're now comparing this to the Elite controller, not the standard controller.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. So, put it this way. If this came with back paddles on it, it would be my... If I could... which I think I can, like if I were to go with like a scuff controller, I could swap the sticks so they're offset, and then I could put back paddles on it. Yeah. So that ideally would be my perfect controller. But, no, and then we did a video a while ago, David did, about how Phil Spencer said he was impressed with. It's called the DualSense controller. The
technology there, it seems like Microsoft was very much focused on the Series X, the Series S, and kind of stayed with more of the same of the controller, while PlayStation really put a lot of thought into the controller.
Yeah. No, and that's, I feel like that's a big difference that you can tell jumping, because like, first of all, this is the DualShock 4, which is PlayStation 4, and then DualShock 3 for PlayStation 3. This controller just sucks, so we're just gonna throw that one off to the side.
Hey, that's my controller.
Don't
throw that.
Sorry.
Okay, I get it. Yeah, that sucks.
The DualShock 4 at least was better, but it still was it wasn't there. This controller, the DualSense, is night and day better than the PlayStation 4 controller. I mean, it's a huge improvement over the last.
Well, I'm looking at this. This is my first time holding one.
You never forget
my whole life.
You never forget your first.
You never do. Notice this was my problem with the new Xbox controllers. I have one right in front of me. This was the Star Wars controller.
Star Wars one,
yeah. This is a Star Wars controller. Notice it tapers. It's hard to explain, but it tapers out more. Yeah. I preferred the 360 controller because it didn't tape off more. It's like too much on the outside. It forces my elbows out a little bit to get
it's like
that.
Sports, you got to raise your elbows.
Yeah. The 360 did not do that. There are improvements on this that I prefer, like the D-pad clicking. But on this, notice it's not as out.
It has like a slight taper.
It feels perfect. It actually feels perfect in my hands. Jordan, you were talking about how you feel like you're holding it in your hands, not your fingers.
Sorry, here's the Series X controller.
Oh. Okay, yeah. They're actually very similar. So we can do the same thing. It's the same thing actually. So it comes out like this.
Yeah.
It puts a lot of pressure on that part of the controller,
and see that.
To actually hold it completely, I have to put my wrists out and my arms out, which I don't like. This is not like that. It feels perfect.
No,
I wish they had this version of the controller on the Xbox with the offset.
Yeah, the offset joysticks is what throws me.
My only criticism, because I'm not necessarily going to criticize like the motion controls or the blowing on your controller, because that can all be turned off. Yeah. And I'm okay with controllers doing stuff like that.
If
I can turn
utilizes it well, it might be cool.
Yeah. I'm okay with controllers having those features as long as I can turn them off and they don't impact gameplay the way I want to play. So that doesn't. The only criticism I have towards the controller, and again, I don't fault the controller for this because it's personal preference, is like you said, I prefer the offset as opposed to the side-by-side joystick.
So is Microsoft going to come out with a new controller? That's the question. And I think they will.
I mean, they come out with a controller every 2 years.
Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying, especially holding them one after
see,
the other.
It feels so much
wider.
better. This is how the 360 controller was.
Yeah.
And I was really frustrated when they did that. I would also say that the Xbox has a far superior D-pad at this point, which is weird to say because over the history of the Xbox controller, the D-pad was always its weak link. But like, I don't know if you guys can see this, but when you press it, you can see it. See how the whole thing shifts?
Yeah.
Well, it's like I don't like that and it doesn't click.
Yeah, see on the Series X controller you feel the click.
Yeah, even
whereas
on
this is like a mesh.
Yeah, even on the other one, I'm going to grab this one. Even on this one, you can. I'm going to put it up to the mic. You can actually hear the click maybe.
ASMR. Yeah, you can hear it.
You guys can hear that click barely.
It's like tactile.
That click.
It's like a mechanical keyboard.
I mean, we jumped ahead 5 years in technology once the D-pad had those clicks in there, and the whole thing doesn't shift like that. I mean, that's my. That I don't like that in this controller. I think that's old school. I think they could have modernized that more, but still, just the ergonomics of it is fantastic.
But overall, it's that's
fantastic.
It's those triggers.
Those triggers.
That's what everybody raves about.